Looking wealthy and being wealthy are not the same thing. And the reality is, most dads can probably only afford to do one of them. Us dads are under a lot of pressure to give our kids this hashtag blessed life. And that pressure can lead us to buying things we don't really have the money for just to keep up appearances or keep up with the Joneses. Damn those Joneses. Now, 4 years ago, this thing happened to me. I had a Rolex, I had a Mercedes, I had a ton of expensive suits, and I also had £44,000 in debt. Fast forward to today, and I don't have any of that debt. I own my own home, I have £100,000 invested, and I have a fully stocked emergency fund. All because I let go of looking wealthy and embraced actually being wealthy. So in this video, I want to share with you the 4 reasons why bypassing luxury goods is essential for building your wealth. Now, the first reason you should be wary about luxury goods is because of associated costs. You see, when I had my Mercedes, every time I filled up, it was around about £120 because it had a massive sports engine, not ideal for commuting. Every time I got it insured, it cost me a bomb, partly because I'm a stuntman, but partly because it's an expensive car. Then whenever I took it for a service, it cost me at least £2,000. The wheels alone were $800 a piece because they are special Mercedes ones. And then when I clipped the wing mirror one day and smashed the glass a bit, you guessed it, it cost me a bomb because I needed to get specific Mercedes parts. I could just about afford the car, but the associated costs actually were killing me. This happens with a lot of other goods too. We can afford the item but we can't afford the associated costs. Now, I'm not saying you can't have nice things. All I'm saying is make sure you factor in the associated costs before buying something. You may not be able to get the newest or the highest end, but you will have peace of mind that if anything goes wrong, you're covered. And that is priceless. Now, reason 2 to be wary of luxury items is that your mind plays tricks on you. 3, in fact. Now, this sounds very woo, but actually this is straight up science. And I know because despite the fact that I talk about finance and I help dads with their finances, I actually have a master's in psychology and neuroscience. So trick number 1 is something called impact bias. This is when we overestimate how much something is going to change our lives. We often think that that new gadget is going to revolutionize the way we do things. And the reality is, it probably isn't. It's just going to be a thing in your possession and it'll be exciting for a while. Now, this impact bias leads to the second problem, which is miswanting. We take this impact bias, we think it's going to change our lives in some massive way, and then we think that this thing will change something emotional in our life, but it doesn't. We buy a new car because we want a girlfriend. We buy a new phone because we want to be more connected to our friends. And the reality is, these things will only play a small part in those things and quite often will not solve the underlying desire. Now, the third trick of the mind happens once we have the item, and then something called hedonic adaptation sets in. This is when we get used to things. The human brain is amazing at getting used to any situation, including having a new possession. So that thing that you're wildly excited about is only exciting for, at most, 3 months. After that, it's just another thing. So the hefty price tag doesn't get you a lot of mileage. So in short, these tricks of the mind will lead you to buying more things than you need and paying more than you really should, and they won't even solve the problems that you think they will. Don't be played by your brain and be rational about the things you buy and really question why you want it and what it'll do for your life. Reason number 3 is that higher price doesn't necessarily mean higher value or higher quality. This is another trick of the mind. We often use the price of something to dictate how valuable it is. We assume that if we pay a lot for something, it must be good, right? Well, that's just not the case. For example, in a blind wine tasting test, when subjects only know the price of each wine, they often report that the most expensive wine tastes the best. Here's the catch. It's all the same wine. We cannot help it. Our brain is hardwired to think that if it costs more, it must be better. And here's another secret. Many of your favorite items are made in the same factory as cheaper versions of the same thing. And often luxury goods put their labels right front and center because they know you will pay extra for the label. You're not paying for the item, you're paying for the signal, the social status. It's not the quality of the product that's better, it's the label that you're paying for. You see, we can be suckers and we can be lazy when assigning value, and we just use price as a proxy. My general rule is if there's a big label on the front of something, you are paying for the label, not the product. And if I'm honest, that means you're paying for status, not for the function of the product. Now, I'm not saying you can't have brand name things. All I'm saying is be aware of being suckered by the brand name when something else just as good can be out there for a margin of the price. I use loads of brand name baby stuff for my kid and I love it. However, I buy it for its function, not because of its brand name. As the famous Stoic Seneca said, a roof made out of straw is just as good as one made out of gold. The last reason is that luxury items we own can end up owning us. Now, I've always prided myself on how I look. I love to dress up and dress fancy and I feel good. And there's definitely something to that, don't get me wrong. However, when we buy luxury items, we can start to get very protective over them. And when we have kids, you know as well as I do, things start to get ruined. And this can really ruin your day if you have so much value attached to those luxury items. Now, this hoodie, for instance, is from M&S. I love that place. I like the hoodie. It's a nice color. But just last night when I'm feeding Jet, he threw up all over me. The good news is this is a 30-pound hoodie. Even if this stained, even if it was ruined, it's not a big deal. This is the problem with luxury items. We get so possessive over them, and especially when we've bought things that are out of our price range, then we are very worried about them getting ruined. And we stop being free. I don't want to have to not cuddle my baby or not feed my baby because I'm wearing my best outfit. No, I want to be free of my possessions. I also want to know that I am more than my possessions. I am someone who is beyond my possessions. They don't define who you are. They just clothe you. They just give you a place to sit. So having items that don't break the bank allow you to be free from being worried if they break, which again, if you have kids, it's probably inevitable. This allows you to focus on the important stuff. How much time are you spending with your kid? Can you get down on the ground and play with them? Can you do whatever is necessary in the house because you know the relationship is more important than the items? So to sum up, you don't actually have to look poor. You just have to not act richer than you are. If you can use these tips that I've given you, then you can take the money that you save and spend it on stuff that really matters, investing that money and getting real wealth real quick. If you need any more help being a financially fit father, check out the links in the description for access to my free community where you can get resources, money saving tips, and even support on your financial journey. I'll see you there.